Welcome to the Strength Connection podcast, a show to share stories, insights, and experiences from some of the greatest coaches in the world. I'm Michael Kurkowski, so grateful for you joining me today. And if you like this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to support the show. All right, let's dive in. Here we go. All right, and we're live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Strength Connection podcast. I'm Michael Kurkowski, and this is a solo episode. It's been a few since I've jumped on here solo and chatted with you, but wanted to make this episode and dive into a couple key lessons and insights from recent episodes and conversations that we've had here. Some things that really hit me hard. I really love the framing and the insight that these guests dropped in here, and wanted to share it with you on this episode. So, one thing I was pondering is, oftentimes when we really experience a breakthrough or we find the things that we need to do to get ourselves to that next level, it's not from something new that really shook up our world, some new program or new insight or new knowledge and information that we get. Oftentimes it's finally having the lesson that we've learned over and over again stick because we hear from a different story, or just it's the right timing in our life to hear it. We're just kind of fed up in a specific spot that we have, and we finally take action on it. And it made me think of, that question that I've pondered a lot over the last years and have heard a lot of different definitions and insights from, is the difference between wisdom and knowledge, right? And this, I remember first reading it in Way of a Peaceful Warrior from Dan Millman, when Socrates talks to Dan and says the difference between wisdom and knowledge: wisdom is doing. And it was a while ago. I don't remember exactly who said it, but I heard this definition of wisdom that I really liked. And it was, wisdom is learning the same lesson over and over until it sticks. And I always like that, because when it sticks and it finally is in you and you don't forget it anymore, that's when you take action. It's kind of become a part of you. And oftentimes, the best ways to make these lessons stick is to hear new insights, new interpretations, or analogies or stories from people. And this is where the first lesson comes in. So, the first lesson is stress resilience over stress reduction. And I got this from Eric Bach, who's a coach from Bach Performance. And I followed Eric's work for a while from social media. I really like the simplistic message that he puts out in the fitness world, of specifically helping men, but generally people, in life, just working on physical fitness. And when we were having our conversation, a lot of cool insights, but he talked about this concept of teaching stress resilience versus stress reduction. And he said, this episode is brought to you by Peluva. Peluva is a new zero-drop minimalist shoe with a distinctive five-toe design. Peluvas give you the most authentic barefoot style experience, but with sufficient cushioning to use for all manner of everyday movement, fitness, and athletics. I've been using these new shoes in both strength training and my daily walks, and I have to tell you, they are by far the best minimalist shoe that I've come across. The popularity of minimalist shoes have been on a big upswing, but Peluvas are a step ahead of every other zero-drop wide box shoe because of the critical feature of individual five-toe articulation, a separate slot for each of your toes. This allows for correct dynamic movement of the foot through walking or running, which is impossible when toes are encased in a single box. Now, minimalist shoes have faced controversy in recent years about causing injury from inappropriate use. So the big picture mission is start walking and living in Peluvas as often as possible. Use your specialized running shoes, basketball shoes, work boots, or high heels when you need to, but wear Peluvas as much as possible to reawaken the natural functionality of the human foot to stand, walk, run, and perform. And Peluvas also have a sleek, cool design, so you get a barefoot shoe that looks great as well as feels great. And now you can try a pair of Peluvas with no risk and realize that these are the most comfortable shoes you've ever worn. They are literally designed to feel like you're walking barefoot on a putting green. So you can go visit peluva.com and use a code SC15 for a 15% discount off your first pair. That's SC15 at checkout. Thank you very much. Let's get to the show. Stress is a part of life. It's always going to be there. It will change forms, it will change outfits, and it will change intensity, but it's always going to be in your life. Rather than talk about stress reduction and giving people a false sense of real life, we ask, how can we become stronger and more resilient to the stress? I really love this. I think this is really powerful. And what it made me think of is one of the most common things I've seen from people in my career is waiting to start because it's a busy time and they want to wait till it's not. So it's let me get through this project or the holidays or let me get through the summer. I'm going away shortly and then I'll be ready. And this often ends up in one of two ways. Either one, they wait till the thing passes, the stress gets removed, but then another stress pops up and another until they finally realize that it's not going to go away and they need to decide to start, often a lot later than they wanted to. Or the second thing happens and they never start and they're still waiting to this day. And it's a rough thing to witness. It sucks. And I think it's a reframe on stress from what Eric was saying was a really great message is rather than trying to eliminate stress, make a plan to become more resilient to stress. And this makes me think of often I've spoke about it a lot on this podcast and with my community about the term I call scouting the defense. And that's everything that we do for personal growth and strength training and fitness and nutrition, all the things that we implement, whether it's a program or a nutrition meal plan or a mindset practice, whatever it is, those are all offensive game plans. Those are when you have the ball in your hands and you're the quarterback and you're driving down the field in order to score a touchdown. Okay. It's important to have a good offense and a good plan. But life plays a professional defense. And I said, if you think like when you're a kid and you're playing Pop Warner, right? Usually you can see very quickly the most athletic kids are the ones that just dominate, right? If you're, faster than everybody else, you can just take the ball and you can run. It doesn't really matter what the defense is doing. The most athletic is going to be able to dominate. But then you get to the next level, then you play high school, and then you get to college. And then if you're really good, then all of a sudden you get to the pros. Well, when you get to a professional level, the defense is just as good at their job in as you are on offense. So it's not just about knowing your offensive scheme and your plans to score a touchdown. You also need to know what the defense is trying to do as well. And I found this is really powerful because I've seen so many people, they start in a program or they start getting rolling with stuff and they start making progress, but eventually something's going to pop up in life. Another stress is going to happen. Maybe you got rid of some, but then something else pops up. Okay. The blitz and the defense is always going to come at you. And if you just make a plan to look at how to be more resilient and maybe make one or two things that if this does happen, when these stresses do pop up, this is what I can do to mitigate it or at least reduce it down so I can still make a play and go forward. Now, if we keep on this like analogy of sports, yeah, maybe the defense is coming. It's not a touchdown play that you're going to throw. Maybe you're not going to make a huge splash play, but maybe you can get the ball out of your hand a little bit faster. Maybe you can make a 1 yard pass and maybe you can still move the chains down. It might not be a huge play, but at least you're not taking a sack and you're not moving backwards. And this is where I've seen so many people fall into it is we start very well and we're in a good groove, but then all of a sudden the defense starts popping up. So if you just take that time to just look at what are the defenses that are coming up, maybe it's scheduling, maybe it's work, maybe it's family obligations, maybe it's a really challenging time that you know of is coming up where your time is very demanding on a bunch of different fronts. Instead of just wishing that these won't be around and hoping that they'll just go away and then you'll start up again, figure out one or two things that you can still do in that time. And that's becoming more resilient to it. So I really love this framework that Eric was talking about and reminding me of the scouting the defense plan that we implement and wanted to share it here with you. All right, so number two, and the second one is about the winter phase. Okay, so my good friend and coach, Brian Grasso, he recently wrote about the three different phases of growth. And I really like the way that he framed this. It's number one is the honeymoon phase, then it's the winter phase, and then it's the harvest phase. Okay. So the honeymoon phase, everything's new and exciting. Energy's high, motivation to execute is through the roof. It's like nothing can get in your way at this time. We've all been there, right? It's you're starting something new. Everything is filled with hope. Everything is out in front of you. So it's a really exciting time because you're starting to implement new things and there's an energy to that. But then comes the second phase, and this is the winter phase. This is where it's darker, it's often tedious and redundant, and there's not a lot of metrics of success that's happening during that time. You've kind of hit maybe a little bit of a plateau, and each thing is getting just a little bit more mundane, a little bit more monotonous, and it's just that challenging part. But that's when you want to just stick to the consistency, just stick to the routine, just work on the daily things you can do over and over again. And that's one of the most challenging phases. And then eventually you get to the harvest phase, and this is where the light shines again, and you reap the benefits and the fruits of your labor. You've put in the hard work, and then you get out of it, and now you're just basking in all the work that you've did before, and now you're really starting to see success. We're very good at the honeymoon phase, but few of us make it to the harvest. It's because of that damn winter phase, that middle zone. And I've talked about this a lot on the podcast of that advanced beginner, that intermediate phase. And it's something that we don't talk about this demographic and the people that are in this mode because it's very easy to sell to brand new beginners and get people started. But where most people struggle and fall back into old habits is when they get into this winter phase. We're all very good at succeeding for 3 to 6 months, but we're very, very good at falling back into old habits 6 months to a couple years afterwards. And that's why so many people are in this yo-yo cycle of success, whether it be physical, mental, business, whatever it is. But I wanted to share a story with you on this because I saw a friend recently this week who had one of the most beautiful examples of getting through the winter phase. So, a good friend of mine, we've been working together mutually in a development group. And this is where we connect every week on a call. We're going over the plans that we're doing in our respective businesses and the work that we're trying to implement and work on. And he's at a very beginning stage of the work that he's doing, building something from scratch. He was working at this for a while of just getting it in, trying to figure out the ways to go till finally he made this decision 6 months ago to really go all in and go all in on himself. And, we connect daily on intentions and wins at the end of the day. And I've watched him over the last 5.5, 6 months do all this deep work, working on himself, his vision of what he wants to build, what he wants to create, going into his own self belief of his bound nature, of the small self that he has, really making that a name and an avatar, getting in touch with that, and then creating his strongest self, who he wants to be, what's the flow switch that he wants to create when he feels himself going to the small self, going into the better self. All these things that we know the deep work that we need to do, but most people actually don't spend the time doing. I watched him work in this day in and day out, giving his best effort over and over again and spending a pretty decent amount of time in this winter phase. Okay. Building a new business, building a new practice, and doing all this inner work and this planting the seeds, not seeing a lot of success of metrics as far as getting new people, of, creating revenue, all this stuff. It wasn't coming at that time. Now, most people in this time, they fall off. They say, well, this isn't working. I'm not seeing the benefits. And then they just quit or they just jump to the next program. They hop into the next thing and just start the honeymoon phase over and over again. And I saw him consistently stay in the zone, working on himself, doing his best intentions to create new conversations, to just work on it every day without focusing on expectations, just holding himself to the standards that he said he was going to do every day. Till finally this past week is he showed up into our call and he had in 48 hours, he had 4 new agreements, made more money in this business that he started than he did in the last few years of trying in 48 hours. He saw all these things from the work that he was doing behind the scenes over and over again. Then it finally came to fruition. One got in, one closed out, and he built it. Then all of a sudden, the next one came, and then another one came, and then another one came right off the bat over and over again. And it's amazing how those things happen is all of a sudden it looks like nothing, nothing, nothing. And then it's just this huge spike of success. And then you get into the harvest phase. So it's kind of the question of like the bamboo tree, right? Is did he create this success in 48 hours or did it take 6 months? Well, I think we know the answer to that, right? And it was an example I wanted to share is because I've seen so many people that are so quick to jump into the honeymoon phase. But when that winter phase eventually comes, where you need to consistently keep doing the deep work and just the day by day consistent work, whether it's physical training, whether it's mindset work and journaling, whether it's business development, whatever it is, that winter phase is where most people fall off. And then because they want to just jump right into the next honeymoon phase. And I saw with my own eyes someone who went through that phase, who got through the tough times, kept faith alive of just doing the consistent work, betting on himself, and then seeing the results that came from this afterwards. It was an unbelievable thing to see. Tears are streaming down his face, and my face, another person on the call. I mean, it was just absolutely unbelievable. And I wanted to share it here is because it's the power of that middle zone where it's like you step into cruise control. It doesn't have that same feeling, that same emotion of the honeymoon phase. But if you can get through that winter phase and just focus on what are the standards that you're holding yourself to every day versus what do you expect to happen, the things that you can't control, that's when real power comes alive. And I saw it in my life full force of seeing it on this call, and I wanted to share with you here. So, if you are one of those people who you're in that winter phase, or you know somebody that you're working with who's in that winter phase, keep going. Just keep working on the standards, keep shifting it, just keep putting in that daily effort because the harvest is coming. You either quit or you win. I believe that wholeheartedly. Then I wanted to share that with you here. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's been exciting. So, thank you so much. I'm going to leave it with you there. Um, thank you so much for your support. Can't wait to get to the next episodes out here, and we'll be talking to you guys again soon. All right, much love to you, and have a great day. Peace.